Now we get to the heavy stuff. I think this is one of the most man. I gotta admit to you all, I'm so surprised that Disney did this. Not because they were afraid to do it, but I mean they do have shareholders that might not want certain things in the context or in their content. It is Disney Plus. You know, people don't want to have that discussion about racism and race and history being erased. But Marvel did it, and I applaud them for that. Isaiah's story, ladies and gentlemen. We get Sam makes his way back to Baltimore. He has a shield in hand. He runs into Eli right quick, who I love how Eli is so protective of his grandfather, and I can't wait to see more of that character, hopefully, in the future. You know, he comes to the backyard and immediately, and Carl Lumley, oh my goodness, man, can this man just be as great as he is? He's so fantastic. You know, he sees Sam undoing the shield. I don't want to see that shield. The red, white, the stripes don't represent me. And we have that back and forth between these two characters. He talks about he talks about everything that went down of being a race and fighting for a country. You go home to racism. Why am I fighting for this country if we can't be respected in this country and everything coming around racism? They go into the house. He opens up about his story and his wife and him being experimented on, and just tear my heart out, Disney. And Carl Lumley and seeing Anthony Mackie listening to the generation before him and hearing that pain and hearing that trauma. And it's so interesting seeing the discourse online regarding this speech would make him not want to be the Falcon. But I took that completely opposite in regards to why he would want to be the Falcon, to right the wrongs of the past, to reintroduce this legacy, to have the black man be Captain America. I mean, literally, guys, this scene to me shows you what this show is all about and what Captain America is all about. For those that are just like, oh, politics and Marvel, this is nonsense, this doesn't happen, this is in the comics. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what Captain America is all about. And I'm so glad that the show took that extra step to have the scene about racism, about what it means to be black in America. And I'm on my soapbox for a minute. I love this scene. Tossing it to you, Amanda. I assume you cried in this moment because it was very emotional, but it was also a lot of great dialogue. So what do you think about this scene?
I mean, you said it beautifully. So all I can say is that I did cry. It was incredibly emotional, very powerful. This is the scene that we all wanted to see in this series. And it just had fantastic performances from both of them, incredible dialogue. To also make Sam think about his own legacy of as the Wilson name. So I thought that was it was great. But yeah, it was a fantastic moment, incredible performances, as I said. And I cried. It was freaking, I was bawling, tears. Tears were real.
He wasn't able, his wife wasn't able to send him the letters. He had to, the parallels of Steve, saving his men and being rewarded for that, right? Mm-hmm. Breaking out of the lab and saving his, brothers in arms, of a sense. And we see, he does the same thing, but he gets arrested for it. He gets tested for it and gets forgotten about. He has to be denounced deceased and erasing everything that he's done. So, Austin, man, your take on this moment, this scene? I think it's safe to say that just like Julia, you don't just bring in Carl Lumley for this show. I hope we get more of this character, him talking to his grandson, Eli, if he ultimately becomes the Patriot and what that could mean for their family legacy. But your take on, his story, man.
It's an awesome, unexpected inclusion. And, the character of Captain America, he represents so many different things. And I've seen some people say, well, we don't want it to, be in here and but that's kind of what Captain America is all about as a character. And when you go back to something like a Civil War and a Winter Soldier, we're dealing with all different types of politics and things that, represent good or bad, right? Mm-hmm. What Captain America represents in the first place. And to see this man's story, the character of Isaiah, what a beautiful, beautiful moment that was between him and Sam, just saying, here's what happened to me and here's why I would recommend against one specific thing. But then Sam takes that and says, here's what I can do better, right? Here's what I can, take and allow myself to represent and be. And I think that might be the moment that we look back on and say,
yep,
this is when Sam said he can be Captain America.
Exactly.
This is when Sam said he can take that shield and represent something new, fresh, and different. And I thought that was so beautiful, not only for Isaiah's character, which was heartbreaking and gut-wrenching, but to see Sam Wilson accept that and say, I can do better. And I love that so much. And oh my God, what a moment between those two. I wouldn't mind seeing more backstory with Isaiah. I wouldn't mind seeing
I would love to see
more
that
with
fight.
his
Him and
character.
Bucky, man, that fight.
Oh man, I love the moment so much, and I
Yeah.
thought it was so expertly written and handled.
Yeah, man. No, well said. And before we go to you, Paul, I think someone actually, this was something too, now looking back at episode, was it 2 with the police again, I see what Marvel was doing. I thought it was a little bit mishandled because there was no follow-up to it, and it didn't really hold that emotion.
Yeah.
It kind of felt like it was just forced in there. But this one, to me, really kind of, we got to sit in the scene. We get to hear Elijah's story, and I thought it was fantastic. But Paul, man, your take on this moment, this scene, and again, what do you want more from this character in the future of the MCU?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I think Isaiah would be great. Getting prequel stuff as well, I think would be really, really good. And it was an uncomfortable scene, and I think when you're discussing topics like race, it should be uncomfortable. And there's been a lot of, well, not a lot, but there's always a group who are like, it's so woke, it's trash, it's politics. I've turned it off during this bit, and it's meant to make you feel uncomfortable, and some people are going to react like that because it forces you to sort of confront the past, and also the way things are today as well. Racism still exists. And you have to have these conversations and talk about how things were. It helps you reflect on what's happening now, and I think it was very important. And you had very much the old generation who'd been through so much, telling the young generation, no, don't trust them, this is something that you shouldn't do. And Sam was very much like, well, I know from my own experience that things are different. And it's sort of, the 2 points of view are very much opposite. And I know there'll be a lot of people who probably had these kind of conversations with their grandparents and their parents who might feel a certain way towards white people and the way they've been treated in the past. And it's a metaphor. It's a very good metaphor. Your grandparents weren't Captain America, but they've probably went through similar things where they've had being cast out because of their race or something like that. Segregation and stuff like that. It wasn't that long ago.
50s, civil rights 60s, was just
exactly. There's people alive today who will be able to remember that very, very clearly. And they will be having conversations like this with the younger generation, saying these things don't change. And there are examples happening today that kind of show, well, maybe they have a point. You do kind of listen to that conversation and think, well, is Isaiah right? Because Sam could be making a mistake by taking on this mantle. And there's such a powerful line in it where he says, no self-respecting black man would ever.
I think it was America would never accept a black Captain America. And fantastic line.
Yeah, what a standout line. And Sam takes 20 minutes 20 minutes episode time, days to decide what to do,
that over,
because he really has to think. There's such a legacy behind this. Am I making the right decision? Is it disrespecting my community? He could be very much just seen as a pawn for white people to say, well, we're not racist because we've got a black Captain America. But he saw how John Walker got cast out as soon as he made a mistake. And you can guarantee that if Sam makes a mistake, then it's going to be just as bad, if not worse. So, it's a very good. The themes of this episode definitely him having to kind of see this because there's 2 Captain Americas in this episode. There's John Walker and there's Isaiah Bradley, and both get completely crapped on and cast out. And he's like, do I really want to be doing this? So it adds so much, and just to have basically both people going through such a negative thing, it adds so much in this scene for the rest of the episode, which is the arc of Sam deciding what to do next. So perfect scene, brilliant. Really, really
it
good.
represents. And I would imagine if I was a parent and my kid, son or daughter, wants to go into the police force, right? I would imagine this is the exact same, and especially being a black man. If my son was a black man wanting to go to the police force, this is probably a conversation he's having, or I'm having with my son, and pretty other sons and mothers are having with their kid in regards to knowing that police are here to serve and protect, but obviously we know that has been something that's been questioned for many decades, but more so in the age of social media. So this is a great scene, and again, I applaud Disney to having this conversation. I want to see Disney continue to have this conversation, even if there is pushback. This is what America is. This is what the world is. I love my sci-fi and the horror films and action hero and all that stuff. And it's good to escape sometimes. But sometimes when you put a mirror in front of your audience, sometimes people see more from media, from movies and shows, and what they can see outside the real life. So I think when Disney puts this out there, it sets a precedent to have these conversations. And that's what it's about. It's about education and conversations. And I applaud Disney for making that step.
Yeah, they already, with Zemo, I mean, a lot of the negative comments I've seen have been how bad the writing is and how the race politics are forced in that. But no one was making any noise about Zemo standing and discussing supremacy and how the flag smashers were supremacists for 5 minutes, where he just stood there going, this is what a supremacist is. And that never got brought up. It's just very sensitive around black people for some reason, and people don't even realize their own prejudices, but you have to confront them, basically. And Bucky does that sort of as the white character almost, because he was very much, I don't know why you gave away the shield,
right?
And then he apologizes to Sam.
Oh, that moment too, and we'll get to that moment. That was a really well placed line by Bucky to say. So again, those are in the chat, everyone throwing in their comments, thank you so much. Again, I know this is, like Paul said, this is a touchy subject, right? And I appreciate Amanda, Austin, and Paul, you guys giving in your opinion on this. And again, this is why we do these lives, to have these conversations. We got aliens, we got the big three, right? Sorcerers, aliens, and androids, and it's all fun and having that stuff. But when we have these conversations, it's awesome. So I appreciate you guys, having this conversation with me, and great on Disney to having that conversation as well. So as